We have breaking news from Indiana in the Delphi Murders case.
The state Supreme Court has made a key ruling in Richard Allen's case. Court TV senior producer Barbara McDonald was inside the courtroom for today's hearing and has the breaking news update. All right, Barbara, great to see you. Thanks for joining us. What can you tell us?
They have already issued a ruling. It took them 3 hours and 45 minutes after the hearing ended today to file a published ruling with the court. Those of us who were in attendance in the court today did get an update about that. And basically, they are reinstating the original defense team of Bradley Rosie and Andrew Baldwin. That was one of 3 requests that Richard Allen had. The other 2 requests to replace the judge and to set the trial within 70 days of their decision, they unanimously deny. It is also worth noting it was a majority opinion, not a unanimous opinion, that restores Bradley Rosie and Andrew Baldwin. Both of them were in the court for today's hearing. They were not part of the actual hearing. They did not argue anything on behalf of Richard Allen. This is a picture I took of them prior to the hearing beginning. They looked confident. They looked comfortable. After the hearing, they appeared relaxed. They were congratulating, or not congratulating, but they were talking with the attorney who did argue on their behalf, Mark Lehman, and they were exchanging hugs and handshakes and seemed to feel like everything went really well. And apparently it did go well for them today, because it took just 3 hours and 45 minutes for the court to come back with a majority opinion that Bradley Rosie and Andrew Baldwin should in fact be reinstated. Now, this means that Richard Allen's trial, which is scheduled for October of this year, is going to go forward with these attorneys and the same judge who removed them, and who these attorneys have accused of being biased, not only against them, but also of their client. So a lot of very interesting developments. It was a rare hearing at the Supreme Court to take up a matter like this prior to it even getting to trial. And then to come back with a ruling so fast, everybody expected a ruling within a couple of weeks, which they thought would be very fast. This took, again, 3 hours and 45 minutes. Michael, Judge?
Well, Barbara, let me ask you this. We just saw there were 5 of, we know, the justices sitting to make this decision.
Correct.
And I just wanted to ask your thoughts, because I know you are all things Delphi and you have followed this case. You've been intimately involved. What do you think of the fact that it was a split decision, that 2 of the requests were denied, that it is simply these attorneys go back to representing Allen, which I think is Richard Allen, which I think is the right thing, because that's what he wanted, but the other 2 are denied. Did you expect that?
I did not. I actually kind of felt that they would replace the judge as well, to protect transparency and protect the process of this moving forward. It certainly seems, I'm not a lawyer, you both are, that there are still many issues that these 2 attorneys could raise against this judge. And what sort of a relationship are they going to have moving forward? They're supposed to be, all of them, working together to make sure that we have a fair trial for Richard Allen when he goes on trial for these charges of murdering these 2 young girls in Delphi, Indiana in 2017. And there are going to be continued fireworks. You know, this is a case that a lot of the people who have been following it from the beginning, those of us who were at the hearing today, were discussing this, that, you know, you almost can't predict anymore what's going to happen in this case. There seems to be surprises around every corner. And after today, I have a feeling that's going to continue.
I think it might continue. And I, too, was just a little bit surprised, Michael, again, that the judge, just to make it cleaner, neater, and given the allegations, that they didn't say, let's have another judge hear this. But you made some great points.
Yeah, I think clearly cleaner and neater are, you know, good reasons, but you also have to have a record. And one of the things that the defense had to do here, Judge, is show the bias. They had to prove it. The judge made that, one of the judges made that point. If you want to claim bias, well, prove it. There was no evidence of bias. That's why I think they left her on the case. But Barbara, what I want to ask you is, there was also, it was brought up in one of the arguments that, look, here's what could happen. If the attorneys are put back on the case, which they were, they go back in front of Fran Gull. One of the reasons I think caused problems problems for this panel of judges was there was no record of why the judge did what she did. So is it possible that now she decides to have a hearing, and she has a hearing on their competency and ability to move forward in the case, creates a record, and still ends up getting rid of them? That's a possibility.
That absolutely is a possibility, and that, as you mentioned, was discussed in court today. And again, you know, I don't have the legal background that you folks do, but it certainly seems that the issues that already existed between this judge and this defense team today doesn't fix all of that. So I see that they're still going to have issues moving forward. Again, Richard Allen's trial is set for October in Carroll County with Fran Gull as the judge and Bradley Rosie and Andrew Baldwin as the defense attorneys. But a lot of things are going to happen prior to that. Also, you know, the new defense attorneys that were appointed by Fran Gull when she got rid of Bradley Rosie and Andrew Baldwin, they also filed a motion to have Richard Allen transferred out of the prison where he's being held and put into a county jail, citing his inhumane treatment, that he's being treated like Hannibal Lecter. That's very similar to complaints that Bradley Rosie and Andrew Baldwin filed in the case as well. So, you know, there's so many issues that are still up in the air. Today does not really settle very many of those issues at all, but it gives Richard Allen the attorneys that he wants representing him back. These are two attorneys that have come out and said they believe he is innocent and that they are going to prove it. They say they are mounting a third-party defense, and they are going to blame, apparently, these members of this Odinist group who they say the law enforcement failed to investigate. And it looks like they're certainly going to be pointing the finger in that direction.
If you would, tell us also, Barbara, what it was like in terms of the atmosphere of local reporters, who all was present watching this, because this has captured the attention of the world. It was such a long time before they even arrested a suspect. And so what was that feel like in that courtroom?
You know, this was obviously a much more, I think, professional setting than some of the others that I've attended, because this was at the Supreme Court. There were very strict rules placed on the media as well as the public who were attending. And I think everyone behaved in a way that really honored that process and honored the court and these justices, and allowed these attorneys to come in and argue what they needed to argue today and have the justices ask questions. And as you saw, the justices had a lot of questions. There were times that they were talking over each other to ask questions of these attorneys. So the fireworks in this case are not going away anytime soon. It's going to be an interesting process to see how this plays out. It has certainly sparked an interest in me to learn more about the Constitution and our rights and how these courts operate at the Supreme Court level.
We are really grateful, Barbara McDonald, that you are there live, that you've been able to join us and give us all such great updates of what happened at that hearing today. Thank you.
Fantastic stuff. All right, let's bring in our guest still with us, criminal defense attorney Marie Pereira. Marie, we've got to get you to ring in on this decision by the Supreme Court out there in Indiana. Again, 2 out of the 3 denied, but ultimately, I would imagine one of the more important ones was getting these attorneys put back on his case. Richard Allen gets a big win there.
I knew it was going to happen when one of the justices said, what difference does it make? Because if a defendant has the right to represent themselves and have no attorney at all, why can't they choose an attorney that the judge may feel violated some sort of gag order? Once one of the justices said that, I knew it was going to lean towards reinstating those attorneys back. And I think that judge really abused her discretion, and she didn't have a hearing. So maybe now she'll decide to do a hearing, to conduct a hearing, to determine if they in fact violated the gag order and if they're incompetent and cannot fairly represent him. I don't think she'll do it, but that decision was proper. I think she overstepped her boundaries by making this decision in chambers and basically threatening them with embarrassment and humiliation and not giving them a time to be ready to fight to keep the position even after those pictures were leaked. They did right. That decision was on point. I think they should have removed her too, because somewhere along the line there is going to be some really tough fracas between them during the trial, and it's always going to be like she's ruling against me because I embarrassed her in Supreme Court and we got reinstated. There's always going to be an underlying beef between them, and I agree with Judge Ashley, to keep it clean. They should have just removed the judge as well, not because she did anything super wrong, but just to avoid the beef that I see coming down the line.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, Judge, to see the written decision, the reason why they left the judge there. I don't think they found anything in the record to suggest that she overstepped her bounds. Again, I believe that there was nothing in the record to show why they should have gotten rid of her, because there was nothing in there to show that she was actually biased. She had reasons to get rid of them, at least in her mind. Were they sufficient? They don't know, because there's no record as to her reasons why she thought they were grossly incompetent and should not continue representing him.
But that's the very problem. Don't do it back in chambers where you don't have a record. If you feel that strongly and you have evidence to support it, you protect yourself, quite frankly, and get out there and put it on the record. Let's just recap, Marie, briefly the motions that were made. The first to reinstate as former public defenders. This is the one that we just heard from Barbara on. That was granted. She said that was by a majority. So not all 5 of them agreed to that, but a majority of the justices did. Then she said to set a speedy trial date within 70 days of the High Court's decision. That request by Richard Allen was denied. To remove Special Judge Francis Gull and replace her with another special judge, again denied. These are the 3 different motions. What do you expect we're going to see next by these attorneys who will now step back in and represent Richard Allen?
They're going to continue to zealously represent him. They fought for him till the end. They went to court to get themselves reinstated. They could have just walked away, but they didn't. They're going to continue to argue the points that they have against prosecution. They're going to offer the theories that they have, that there were other people responsible for this and that prosecution is not investigating enough. And they may really vindicate his rights in court because they seem very dedicated. Just the fact that they took it this far to the Supreme Court and it got there this fast shows that they are really on his team.
Yeah, the zealous representation for sure.
First thing on the agenda should be getting him proper treatment. 2 second attorneys have said he's being treated awfully.
Yep, that has to be addressed. All right, we're out of time. Thank you, Marie Pereira, for joining us this hour.